My boss took credit for my work, so I exposed his dirty secrets. In 2021, for 18 months, I'd been working from home, as most of us had. From a work perspective, this has been great. I've been more productive than when I'm in the office, been able to work more flexible hours, and have saved a ton of money by not commuting. My workplace had an agreement that those working from home can do whatever hours they want, so long as we're able to answer urgent calls and core hours and get all of our work done. Fair enough as far as I'm concerned. For 16 months, this worked great, as above. Then over a few weekends, I had a clear out of the house and took pictures of all the items that were in good condition, but we no longer wanted, with the view of giving them away to whoever wants them. One day when I was working from home, I took my lunch break, made a quick sandwich and posted the items that I'm giving away on one of those local Facebook free pages. I didn't know it at the time, but one of the managers, we'll call them Shambles henceforth, from my work, was also signed up to that page and he saw my post. He then took it upon himself to go to the owner of the company and tell him that I was slacking off and posting on Facebook during work hours. For context, this wasn't my boss, who was super chill as long as everything was done on time, nor was the complaint to my direct boss, but to the owner of the company. We're a big business, so there's a lot of people in the chain of command between me and the owner. And to top it off, I'd been doing a lot of work for Shambles. He'd outsourced the running of entire projects to me over the past 18 months. All of which I'd executed well and he had taken ample credit for. This was the only time in 18 months I'd posted anything on Facebook, because I never post. So the owner of the company contacted me, and to be fair, he's a decent guy, and the conversation went like this. Listen, I've been told you're posting on Facebook during work hours. Just be smart about it. It doesn't look good when colleagues see it. I say, I completely understand. Just so you know, I posted that during my lunch break. I was told you were posting at noon. At the company, lunch break is usually between 1 and 2. I say, I did, but that's because when I'm home working, I always take my lunch between 12 and 1. Okay, I don't have an issue with that, just keep your head down. Like I said, decent guy. I wasn't really in trouble and the owner didn't seem to care, but then I started to think, wait, who the heck has gone to the owner with this in the first place? Long story short, a coworker who was working on site that day heard along the grapevine that Shambles had been complaining to the owner about me and how I'm always on social media when I should be working. I literally only have Facebook and I only use that for Messenger 99% of the time. So, cue my petty revenge. As I said before, Shambles likes to outsource work to me. I never minded this, the work has varied and it broke the week up, plus my own boss didn't mind as I always had my work for him done on time. However, I never got recognition for this extra work. For 2 years, I managed a sub-department completely on my own because he, quote, didn't have time to do it. I didn't get paid a penny more for it, but it was a good group of people and I enjoyed getting experience for management. Well, after my Facebook experience, every time Shambles came to me with an issue, I'd say I was super swamped, but that I'd try to deal with it if I had time. The projects he tried to outsource to me, I immediately rejected, saying that I had a full plate from my actual job. And that sub-department I ran, well, we'll get to that. Over the next couple of months, Shambles starts missing his deadlines. Issues come up with existing projects that he hasn't fixed, and employees are complaining that every time they go to him with an issue, it doesn't get resolved. It dawns on me at this point that I've basically been doing this guy's job for him for years. Frick that. I set up a meeting with my boss and put forward my arguments why I should be promoted, or really why I should have been promoted ages ago. I point to all the projects I've successfully run, as well as the sub-department I've managed for 2 years. He completely agrees and says he'll take it to his boss. Now, somehow, I don't know how, but when I go to the next meeting with my boss's boss, Shambles is there too. He's on the same level in the company as my boss's boss. A little phased, but not willing to give up, I put my arguments forward to them. Shambles lets me finish, then proceeds to tell me that I don't know enough about our work to manage. I don't have the required people skills, and then he tells me, and this is verbatim, besides, people here don't respect you. They respect me. I know I'm a good manager. If you really think about it, you know you wouldn't be. I forget what else he said after that, but I was completely destroyed. My boss's boss comes up to me afterwards and tells me that Shambles is a jerk, but unfortunately he's got the approval of the higher-ups, so what he says has way too much sway for him to go against him. I tell my boss's boss that if that's the way it is, I'm going to look for other employment. He sighs and says, I don't blame you. Cue my revenge. During the time it took me to look for and apply to other jobs, I've got time to think about how I can get back at Shambles. He's used me for years and now he's blocking my promotion. I'd already stopped working on his stuff and his projects were going from bad to worse, but I needed something more. Now, this next part could be an entire post on its own, so I've numbered it for brevity. First, I'm an accredited internal auditor for our quality systems. Second, I ask if I can be assigned a couple of last audits before I leave to, quote, help them out. Third, I carry out these audits and using my intimate knowledge of Shambles projects, I find every single issue I can. 4, a number of people also hate Shambles and give me more dirt on him. And 5, someone gives me breakthrough information that Shambles has been forging signatures and bypassing multiple company procedures to make his KPIs look better. 6, I write up the report with tons of evidence attached and I send it off. 7, the report gets flagged at the highest level because of what it shows. And 8, Shambles gets dragged over the coals. I wish I could say that this story ends with Shambles getting fired and having to sell his body on the street for scraps, but obviously, using all the connections he has, he keeps his job. I later found out, though, that he was due a massive promotion, as in being catapulted to the top of the company, running whole divisions, that sort of thing. That never happened, though. With his declining numbers as well as a damning audit showing all of his shortcomings, he's basically told he'll never progress beyond where he is and that he's lucky to have a job at all. He still works there, and I'm told his ego has been taken down a whole washing line worth of pegs. As for me, I'd love to say that I got a better job with a massive raise. That's half true. I decided to pursue my dream job, literally since I've been a kid dream job, in a totally different industry. All the experience I had counted in my favor, and although I took a bit of a pay cut, I've never enjoyed work more. Oh, and that sub-department I was running? They knew that when I left, Shambles would take over running them again. So in my last month at the company, I gave them all tutorials on how to search for jobs and pass interviews. I'd worked in recruitment previously. I've heard from a number of them since that they'd landed better jobs and they thanked me in part for it. Not the perfect ending, but I'm damn happy with it. And we're happy for you too. Shambles is definitely the jerk here, and a massive one at that. There's one thing we hate more than a busybody boss who actively hinders his employees' productivity and keeps them down, and that thing is a boss who does all of that while only being there because of his connections. Be it nepotism, schmoozing, or just the fact that his daddy knows the CEO, the fact that morons like Shambles can get a job they're not proficient in just because of who they know is infuriating, when I know smart, hardworking guys and girls with master's degrees working service jobs. I am somewhat surprised that if you have literally one guy doing your entire job for you, that you'll do your utmost to trash that guy and make him want to leave. Then again, I guess an upward move would mean that you could no longer bully him into doing everything for you. So maybe in this one respect at least, Shambles was being kinda smart. But anyway, we can all be happy that there would be no more upward mobility for this absolute crock of doo-doo. Sounds like you might have hurt the company as you and your subdivision packed up to leave as well. Hopefully they'll learn the right lessons from that. Good on you for striving towards a job you are far happier with. May you find success in your endeavors there going forward. Frick you, Shambles. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked below. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for walking out on my job? I work as a waitress at a restaurant with a point system. It's 1 point if you're late, 3 points to call off with notice, and 5 points for calling off within 4 hours of your shift. This is fine with me as I have no points this year and I've only called off once since 2018. I'm the type who covers shifts, stays late, and generally just go to do my job. Last week, I ended up calling off and was out for a week, due to being hospitalized in the ICU with a horrible infection. I let my boss know at 2 a.m. that I was being sent out by helicopter, and I kept her informed of everything going on. Today was my first day back. I'm not 100% yet, but like many places, we're short-staffed. When I came in today, I opened and got to work. My boss came in 2 hours later and called me into her office. She informed me I was getting 8-point demerit, losing my discounts and bonuses for 90 days, and was on probation. I was dumbfounded and told her I wasn't signing the papers as it was out of my control. She said if I didn't, I'd be terminated. I told her not to bother and walked out. I'm now getting calls and texts from her and my coworker saying they need me and I was a jerk for quitting over something so small. My husband thinks I was in the right because it was ridiculous that I was getting punished for almost dying. Am I the jerk? Definitely not the jerk. What the actual crap are they thinking? You were ill enough that you needed a military-style extraction to get you to the ICU, and then you come to work presumably on a cocktail of medication and stimulants before you were even better. The boss doesn't have a viewpoint that they could defend in front of any reasonable person. We're docking your benefits for nearly dying. How dare! Also, such a fail bluff to threaten you with termination when it's clear that they seem to be completely dependent on you if so many coworkers are getting back to you. I guess if you're really the kind of guy to take all the extra shifts and covers, then they might be well and truly screwed, and that's well deserved. I took my terminally ill friend's virginity before she passed. Today is her 1-year anniversary since she passed, and I can't stop thinking about her. She was my friend for 6 years. Her cancer came back aggressively, and she told us she doesn't want to go through chemo again, so she planned to enjoy the time she had left. Before that, she was also kind of a homebody who was only close to a small group of friends, which was us. One night when we were all drinking, she admitted to me that she was still a virgin, but she doesn't want to lose it to just any stranger. At least somebody she trusts before she goes. That person was me. She didn't force me to do anything I didn't want to do. She asked, but was willing to drop it and pretend it never happened if I decided no. We decided to make it extra special. We got a nice hotel room, got those fake candles all over the room to make it more romantic. It was the first time I'd ever done the deed with someone I loved but wasn't in love with, if that makes sense. It was still a very intense experience. Not in a bad way. There were still lots of emotions. Even though she seemed so happy to lose her V-plates to someone she trusted, part of me wonders if I did take advantage. If I was wrong for saying yes. It's just hard because I miss her so much. But I'm still glad at least I got to give her something before she left. I just want to thank everyone who's written in for their beautiful words and support. Today has been such a hard day, but you've all made me feel lighter. Every day I think about her and I miss her. Today especially hits me even harder. I wish we could be talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender. We were all excited when she decided to binge-watch the whole thing. It was on her bucket list of things to watch. I was hoping she'd love it as much as I do. Her and I could literally talk about that for hours. I wish we could talk about whatever short story she was currently suffering writer's block from. She was kind of embarrassed to let anyone else read them except me and our other friends. I read the ones she let me keep whenever I'm down. They always make me smile. No jerks here as far as the narrator can see. No, I don't think you did any wrong by this woman. You gave her an experience that she wanted, and you did it with effort and sensitivity. I think a lot of people would wish their first time was something more like this. It sounds like you guys had the sort of very special friendship that most of us are lucky to experience even once, and the thing you did for her was a wonderful gift of friendship from my perspective. It seems like it was consensual and informed, with both parties ready to call it off if either of the other parties wanted that. It was another way in a long list of ways that it seems like you made each other feel special, and that you trusted each other enough to do. And the fact that you wrote about it so beautifully shows how much she meant to you. Thank you for sharing. Am I the jerk for making a budget to show my niece how hard it would be if she married her fiancé? My niece is engaged to her new boyfriend. They've been dating for 4 months, and she's just 19. My brother told her that he'll stop funding her life if she marries him. My niece is pretty spoiled. She visited me last week. I thought she thought I'd be supportive because I was also cut off because I refused to divorce my wife. She was telling me how she knew it would be difficult, but she could manage because she loved him. I asked her if she had a budget, and she said she didn't. I offered to help make her one, and she was enthusiastic. She didn't know how much money he made, and when she texted him about it, he was being shady and not responding. So I assumed he'd make $16 an hour and work 12 hours per day for 6 days and $10,000 in tips. And I assumed she'd work the same hours and make the same amount. I then showed her how much things will actually cost and budgeted them figures in. I also emphasized that these were very generous assumptions on my part, and it's a rosier picture than reality. It still meant that she'd have to make substantial changes to her lifestyle, and I think it dawned on her how drastically different it would be to date someone without money and be actually married to them. She asked me how we made it work, and I told her that my wife and I had sat down for hours preparing budgets and getting ready to be cut off. And we were cut off in our early 30s and already had 2 great careers. and received other inheritances which had helped immensely. She was sober and serious when she left my house. She broke up with him and has moved back home since then. It appears she asked him about his salary, and it was lower than my assumptions, and that freaked her out, and she broke up with him. She's upset and said I scared her and she really misses him. My wife said that I was a bit manipulative with my assumptions, as I did know that they were more generous than normal, and she'd freak out when she tried to make a real budget. I did know that, and it does make me feel a bit bad. I feel like I played her here. And of course I meant 10 grand in tips yearly, not weekly, obviously. I don't know, I'd interpret your generous wage calculations as an attempt to be optimistic. Although that said, 10 grand in tips is a figure that seems so absurd to me that maybe I'm being naive. Perhaps those of you who live in Freedom Land can tell me whether that's an unreasonable guess. I live in a country where we pay our workers, don't hate. I don't think what you did was too cruel. She did whatever final budget she did and then realized she couldn't make ends meet in the way that she wanted. Not that I'm ever a fan of these people who just kind of live off their trust funds and allowances like she was doing, but it's a good thing for her prospective partner as well. He dodged a wife who would possibly resent him for the crime of not being a millionaire. It was a little shady that he tried to conceal how much he earned, but I can understand a little of that stress given what he was up against. I think this was a long-term win for everyone, to be honest. She tried to hire me again? So I was new to the area and should have suspected something when right upon move-in, this lady was on my doorstep asking if I babysat. Yep. Turned out there was a shortage of teenage girls in the area who wanted babysitting money. It was country club territory and the majority just didn't do work. The mother was thrilled to find out that I babysat and scheduled herself a date night that weekend. She agreed to my rate and I was happy to have a customer so quickly in my new town. However briefly that ended up being. Hellspawn was the kind of kid who liked to pull the wings off insects. I should probably Google him to find out his Florida man story. He was beyond unruly. He hurled his dinner at me because I wouldn't give him cookies. He kicked and hit me over my insisting he needed to put on pajamas. He threw an absolute screaming tantrum on the floor when it was bedtime because he wanted to stay up and play video games. He was an overall nightmare, and it was blindingly obvious he was used to these tactics working. I survived the night, but by the time the lady got home, Hellspawn hadn't finished having his bedtime tantrum on the living room floor. Tiny me was not capable nor interested in trying to physically force a kicking and hitting kid to do anything. He'd even threatened biting. So there he wailed and pounded the carpet. I figured he'd tucker himself out eventually, or the lady could deal with what she spawned when she got home. He was way too old for that behavior, 8 years old. Well, I learned where he got it. As soon as she got in the door, this lady threw a screaming fit at me that her hellspawn wasn't in bed. When she got done yelling at me, she refused to pay. I didn't deserve to be paid, apparently, because I hadn't successfully gotten him to bed on time. Why had she hired a babysitter if she still has to do all the work? She had deserved a break from Hellspawn's bedtime antics. I was decidedly unamused by the not paying thing, but she wouldn't budge. So I took the remote control for her television hostage and went home. Then I told everyone I met what she'd done, and unsurprisingly, this lady had a history of refusing to pay contractors, house cleaners, and babysitters. She had a lien on her house and everything. Given there were fewer babysitters than babysitting jobs on offer in the area, she didn't have a lot of luck hiring one again. She did eventually come for her remote and pay up. Then the damn fool tried to hire me again. Not a chance. In short, the entitled lady refused to pay for babysitting because I didn't get her hellspawn in bed on time. I refused to give back her TV remote until she paid up. She does and then tries to hire me again. Huh, no. Oh my god. Very bold of you to admit to her that you'd committed theft, but it seems like it worked, so what the frick do I know? I guess she was just that desperate for literally any babysitter. I'd call that lady a jerk, but it seems like that would be redundant, as she'd already been found to be one by society at large, with everyone you talked to having blacklisted her for being absolutely Trumpian in refusing to pay people who worked for her. Why would anyone take a second job from her after she behaved that way? It seems very optimistic from her end. And with her awful little brat behaving the way he did, would even a guaranteed payment be worth it? Methinks not. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories. Or if you want to check out some great music, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot. Everything linked in the description.